I'm a volunteer here with the American Postal Workers Union. And thank you for tuning in to learn more about APWU's Save the Post Office Day of Action coming up this Tuesday, August 25th. This is an incredibly urgent hour when our democracy and our postal service are under attack. And we all need to come together to stand up and fight to save our postal service. Tonight, you're going to hear from three people at the heart of this struggle. President of the American Postal Workers Union, Mark Dimenstein, Secretary Treasurer of the APWU, Elizabeth Powell, and Tara Ibrahimi, a volunteer hosting a Save the Post Office event in Chicago. First, Tara is going to tell us about why she decided to step up and host one of these events in her community. Then Mark is going to give you an urgent update on where we stand in the fight to protect the Postal Service in the face of recent cuts and changes to service. And finally, Elizabeth is going to talk about what comes next and all of these amazing events we've got coming up on Tuesday and how you can host one at your local post office, put pressure on lawmakers, and save the post office. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Tara, who's going to tell us about why she decided to step up and host a Save the Post Office event in her community in Chicago. Tara, thank you so much for being here. Take it away.
Thank you, Jack. When I was in kindergarten, my teacher started an interclassroom post office. We sent letters to one another, mostly with short sentences like, "Will you be my friend? Circle yes or no," and "What is your favorite crayon color?" There's a reason one of my first memories is of an institution as old as America itself, because the post office is built into the very fabric of this nation. There are nearly 330 million people in America across 3.8 million square miles. Every day, letters and packages are sent from one coast to the other and everywhere in between. From a favorite book sent from a granddaughter to her grandparent to millions of medications that save lives, the post office is an integral part of our everyday experience. The USPS has served the people of this country faithfully through snow, through rain, through heat and gloom of night. And now it's time for us to demand action. We must save the post office. My name is Tara Ibrahimi, and I'm from Chicago. I decided to host a Save the Post Office event because I refuse to sit idly by as the administration dismantles this critical department, taking our ability to vote along with it. To me, saving the post office means standing up for democracy, saving jobs for hundreds of thousands of postal workers, and loudly proclaiming that we will not watch as yet another American institution is shattered. Signing up to host is easy at usmailnotforsale.org. And when you sign up, you get access to materials that will walk you through exactly how to host a successful event. When I joined a training webinar, I met other inspiring people around the country who are taking the plunge to host an event at their local post office just like me. Mickey in Maryland was inspired to host an event after seeing her local postal workers serve the public with only a shower curtain for protection at the start of the pandemic. Danny is a bookstore owner in Kansas who is hosting an event because his business depends on the Postal Service. Lee in South Carolina is hosting because he has spent his life fighting for civil rights and equal representation for the African American community, and he wants to protect everyone's right to vote. Rufina in Hawaii is an APWU leader who is hosting an event because she wants to be a leader for her local postal workers in these challenging times. And Ed from Oklahoma City summed it up when he said he's hosting because it's the right thing to do. Please, please, please join me by hosting or attending an event at your local post office on Tuesday, August 25th. We need you. Go to usmailnotforsale.org to sign up. We will not let this election be stolen. We will not let the whims of those in power decimate hundreds of years of exemplary service. And we will not let the USPS go without a fight. Thank you. Jack, back to you.
For stepping up to host an event in your community. And like Tara said, you can go to usmailnotforsale.org at any time and put an event on the map. We have hundreds of people signing up to host events on Tuesday. And it's so important to do so because this has been a long fight to protect the USPS from privatization, to make sure it has the funding and support it needs. And we're really lucky to have Mark Dimenstein here, the president of the American Postal Workers Union, to tell us exactly about that fight. So Mark, thank you so much for being here. Please take it away. Tell us all about the history of this fight and how you guys have been leading on it.
Well, greetings all defenders of the public commons, defender of the public postal service. Really glad you all took time out on a Sunday to be part of this fight and to continue to be part of this fight. And Tara couldn't have said it any better. I have a framed picture that my daughter found, my youngest daughter found, that I drew when I was 6 years old. In a classroom, Tara, just like you. And it's a picture of an airmail stamp and my name and address on it as if we were going to mail it back to ourselves when we were little kids. So I do identify with your story as well. But you said everything so eloquently. Look, on the bigger picture, there's an agenda to privatize the Postal Service, dismantle it, sell it to private corporations for private profit. That's not a new thrust in this country. Wall Street, the hedge funders, the private companies would love to get their hands on the money generated by the public for postage. It belongs to all of us. It's part of what we call the public till. And it did not start with this administration, but it has intensified greatly under this current White House. And so we have a White House who's on record, in writing. You don't have to take this from me. June 2018, from Office of Management and Budget of the White House, saying that this is their goal. Break it up and sell it. Move forward a couple years to the pandemic. The pandemic has given these privatizers an opportunity from their point of view. And they're shamefully trying to take advantage of the economic impact of this pandemic on the Postal Service. We know how deep this economic crisis is on all working people throughout the world. We know how deep it is when 40 million people are suddenly unemployed. It's having a dire impact on the Postal Service. The Postal Service does not run on tax dollars in normal times. Many people don't realize that. And what it means is that the revenue from postage and postal products have to be enough for all of us 600,000 dedicated postal workers to carry out our mission to all of you around the country, which is universal service, no matter who we are, where we live, at one uniform rate and reasonable pricing. And the Postal Service has projected that the pandemic will cause a $50 billion loss in revenue just due to COVID, not any other factors, just due to COVID over the next 10 years. And what that means in real life is the post office quite likely could run out of money early next year. And think about what that would mean to the democratic right of the people, the small d democratic right of the people, as well as to the workers and family sustaining union jobs, and what that means for our community and for equal pay for equal work and so much equal opportunity for workers of all nationalities in the Postal Service. So what's happening now is we're at a crossroads. And this is what's before Congress now in terms of stimulus relief. This is one time the public Postal Service does need taxpayer relief. In March, in the huge stimulus package, the CARES Act, it was called, $2 or $3 trillion package, private corporations got $500 billion. The Postal Service did not get a cent. They did not get a dime. In fact, the only thing they got was worse. They got the offer of more debt. Well, the Postal Service doesn't need debt. Postal Service is set up to serve the people on a break-even basis. That just makes things harder. What they need now is emergency relief. And the friends we have, and we have many friends in Congress, did not hold in. The can was kicked down the road. The Trump administration got their way, and they said there will be no stimulus money back in March. But now there's a new opportunity. In the HEROES Act passed by the House in May, there was $25 billion of COVID emergency relief. That, interestingly, was the minimum request from and a bipartisan, unanimous request from the Postal Board of Governors. So we're glad it's in there. It's now in the hands of the Senate. There's a standalone Senate bill, bipartisan. Susan Collins from Maine, Dianne Feinstein from California, one Republican, one Democrat. That's good for a $25 billion standalone bill. But there's one other factor first, and that is while this is going on, Louis DeJoy was appointed as the new Postmaster General. It was a suspect and concerning path that got him there. He's very much tied to this White House, and we know this White House does have a privatization agenda. But at the end of and he said a lot of fine things, but at the end of the day, we judge people by their deeds. And thus far, his deeds have been to degrade services to the people of this country. So just in the last 3 or 4 weeks, mail has been slowed down. He has arbitrarily reduced the number of hours that the employees are working If the mail has to be worked and the employees aren't there to work it, guess what? It doesn't get worked. And the people are being deprived of the promise under the law, which says prompt, reliable, and efficient services. And we're unfortunately getting reports, not just from workers throughout the country, but from customers throughout the country, from veterans and their medicines coming through VA, to small businesses, to individuals who just can't get their mail and their needed supplies, in many cases needed medicines, on time. And we've made it crystal clear this needs to be corrected, quickly, and we need to get back to what the post office should be and needs to be for the people of this country. And let us remember, the people of the country support the Postal Service. It's not partisan for the people of the country. 91% have a favorable view of the post office and trust the post office. That's across the political spectrum. Whether someone identifies Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green, Libertarian, it doesn't matter. It is the same. So here we are. We got a big agenda for privatization, a COVID pandemic that's put a fork in the road, and Postmaster General that so far has been undermining and degrading services. But here we are. The people of the country have risen up, said, no, this is our post office. No one's going to take it from us. We support the post office. We support relief in this moment, appropriated congressional relief. And we support a postal service where mail is moving quickly like we need it, not degraded services. So what's happening? Just yesterday, there were protests all over the country. On the same day, yesterday, the House of Representatives passed, somewhat on a bipartisan basis, a bill that called once again for the $25 billion of COVID relief, but also added to it that the PMG must reverse their detrimental changes to service. So that's a very good development. Friday, there was a hearing on the Senate side. The PMG, and this is an encouraging sign, was forced to admit that, or forced to say that mail ballots will get priority treatment and be treated as first-class mail no matter what class of mail they're mailed. That's a very good sign. And all of these things are a product of you, the people, standing up with postal workers, with your communities, with your organizations, whether they're civil rights, faith-based, veteran, and all different kinds, saying we're united in defense of saving the public postal service. So what that tells us is we're on the march. As difficult as the times are and as big as the challenges are, our sisters and brothers and friends, we're on the march. They have had to make concessions already. Not just on vote by mail, by the way, but even Mr. Meadows, the chief of staff of President Donald Trump, apparently was on the news saying, well, maybe we'll go with $10 billion relief. Up until recently, up until you spoke up throughout this country, they were at zero. And they were staying at zero. So be inspired. I am, that you're making that kind of difference. So now we have to keep our pedal on the metal, as they say, because what's at stake is whether we're going to have essential services and whether those medicines are going to get through, whether the exchange of information will continue, whether those birthday cards will move, those financial transactions, whether e-commerce will be available for everybody, no matter where we live, whether small businesses will be able to thrive because we have a public postal service. That's what's at stake. And so we're very pleased that so many of you are stepping up. We're in this together. Take my word for it. Postal workers are extremely dedicated to you, dedicated to the mission of serving the public. And that's been so underscored in this pandemic, challenging and dangerous time where postal workers, despite being quarantined we've had 40,000 people quarantined. We've had thousands of people sickened. Despite all those challenges, we're proudly out there connecting the people of the country, and the people of the country are very connected with us. So there is a lot at stake. And Tara also talked about the intersection of now the right to vote. Here we are in a time that if we don't have good, strong postal services to be able to process mail ballots. And we are confident that we will and we can. We've done it for generations. But think about this. We're going to have tens of millions of people now in this pandemic that this is the only way we're going to have access to the ballot box. You talk about voting rights. Talk about a hard-fought, cherished right. This is going to be the only way. More and more people have been voting by mail. Last election, 1 out of 4 voters voted by mail. It's tried, it's true, it's tested, it's virtually free of fraud. But now millions more will have to vote this way. And we have to overcome all this disinformation coming from the highest office of the land, that either it's going to be fraudulent and corrupt, which it's not. It's an insult to every postal worker. Or somehow we can't handle it because there's just going to be too many ballots. And that's almost silly for those of us who know something about the post office. We do national mailings all of the time. So it's something that's going to work. We want people to vote through the mail. We want people to ask for the absentee ballots early, and we want people to vote early. But we also want you all out there on Tuesday because we're going to keep this pressure on. We're making progress, sisters and brothers. We're on the march. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Secretary Treasurer Elizabeth Powell, who every time she speaks not only inspires those around her, she continues to inspire me. Liz, it's all yours.
Thank you, President Demestein. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just as fired up today as I was when I spoke to you a couple of days ago. So here I am once again, asking all supporters of the United States Postal Service to organize a socially distanced rally outside their local post office on Tuesday, August the 25th. We're aiming for hundreds of events across the country. As a reminder, all you have to do is put an event on our online map. Spread the word in your community through social media and your personal networks. Recruit 1 or 2 people to say a few words on why they want to #save the post office. Contact local media outlets to make sure they know where the community stands. We've done it before, and we can do it again. 50 years ago, our union was born in the street. 7 years ago, it was where we began our struggle against Staples. And 6 years ago is when we rolled back PMG Donahoe's plan to close mail processing facilities. And don't worry, we will give you the tools you need. We will provide you with the host guide, organize local support calls, which will get you everything you need to organize a successful rally. We need you to be a part of these historic moments. We got nearly 150 events on the map. We need to make sure we have an event in every state. With today's call, we're asking you double that number, triple that number, quadruple that number. Do whatever you can so that we will end up with as many events as we possibly can have. Who's going to step up to organize the #Save the Post Office Day of Action? We are. All you got to do is go to usmailnotforsale.org right now and sign up to be a part of the actions on Tuesday, August the 25th. I'll repeat that. Go to usmailnotforsale.org right now. And while you're looking at this, make sure you drop your name, city, and zip code in the chat so that we'll know who you are and where you're from. And then once again, go to usmailnotforsale.org and sign up. We're looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday in front of a post office. Have a good day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liz and Mark and Tara, all for your testimony as to why this fight is so important and what is at stake this week in this fight to save the post office. I could not have said it better myself. Like Liz said, go to usmailnotforsale.org right now. Find an event at your local post office, and if there isn't one, sign up to host one. It's super easy. We have people ready to help you as soon as you sign up, a wealth of materials. You can get on a call and learn how to host a successful event. And like Mark said, this is an enormously critical moment for our democracy, for our post office, to make sure that this sacred institution is protected, not just for our generation, but for generations to come. So once again, to Mark, Liz, Tara, and everyone tuning in this fight to save the post office, thank you so much for being here. We will see you on Tuesday at your local post office to go ahead and save our post office once and for all. Thank you again for being here, and have a great day, everyone. Again, it's usmailnotforsale.org. Thank you.